high variance players, breakout / bust, polarizing players, however you want to phrase it. Let's get to the list. Story. Let's do our honorable mentions last. Let's get right into it. And I'm going to go to your first name here, and it is Mr. Bucky Irving, running back 20. So is this just based on usage? I mean, it's tale of two seasons essentially, but you know what? It's kind of a tale of two seasons just in the one season he had last year, because the start of the year was awesome. You saw awesome usage. He was actually just almost as efficient as he was as a rookie with like an increased workload. And then coming back from the injury, it was just bad. The usage was bad. The eye test was bad. Everything about it was just stinky. So is it like a what's the real Bucky Irving kind of situation?
I mean, this might be one of the most talked about backfields in fantasy, probably this in Washington leading up to draft season. I think this is a bit of a low-hanging fruit when it comes to range of outcomes. We've seen the rookie year Bucky Irving and how spectacular, right? 5.4 yards per carry, plummeted to 3.4 yards per carry last year, dealt with injury throughout the year. There's speculation that there might have been some mental stuff that kept him off the field for a little bit as well. I don't want to get into that too much, but there's a chicken and an egg thing going on here. Like, was his explosiveness sapped because of the injury, or did the injury cause him to take a huge step back? Was it the offense in general? So if we can get back to, I don't want to like write Bucky Irving off, because we saw what the talent and the upside can be. He's got the opportunity to, match his rookie year, 200 carries, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, which would more than pay off of his draft costs. He also has the opportunity to just be in a nasty committee there, right? They signed Kenneth Gainwell. There's a lot of talk about Sean Tucker. So if it does turn into a true pass catching or a committee where you've got Sean Tucker taking the goal line work, and you've got Kenneth Gainwell doing all the pass catching third down, and you're getting the low calorie, low upside touches for Bucky Irving, that's going to be bad news. But if they screen back to what we saw at the beginning of last year, then Bucky Irving could be a huge value in draft day. Kenneth Gainwell does bother me not bother me, but I'm more worried about him than I am about Sean Tucker. Like, there's a lot of people thinking that Sean Tucker is going to be a big part of this backfield, and yes, they did sign it. He did sign an extension there, but he's never been really used heavily unless there was no other option. So I'm not too worried about that. I hate to say I'm right down the middle here, but I think you're probably fair drafting Bucky at his draft cost right now.
There's like 3 ways I can see this going. So RB20, like what's most likely to happen is it becomes a mini 3-way committee with Sean Tucker getting, 5 touches a game, 4 touches a game, but they're high value touches. The third and shorts, and then all the stuff in the not all the stuff in the goal line, but like half the goal line work for Sean Tucker. There's the good outcome where Sean Tucker goes back to being a depth piece, and they use him very sparingly, and Bucky is getting majority goal line work and just 60% of the work, which is a fair workload for a player of his skill set. And also in this offense, we expect to be pretty good. There's the downside, though, of it's an actual 3-way committee, and what we saw at the end of last year continues with a better version of Rachaad White in Kenneth Gainwell. So my ranking here, I did a high end and a low end, like best case scenario, worst case scenario, not factoring an injury. RB6 is my upside for Bucky Irving in PPR. I think he can get there. I mean, we saw it his rookie year, and he's going to have potentially more work than he had his rookie year. His downside, I have RB36. Just if Sean Tucker is taking, he didn't receive a goal line carry last year. Bucky did. That's wild as hell. At least he didn't receive one after he came back from injury. RB36 is in the realm of possibility for me if it's a 3-way committee and Gainwell is I'm not saying the better player, but Kenneth Gainwell last year was a better player than Bucky Irving. I think we all agree Bucky's a better between the tackles runner. But if it's a 40-40-20 split, and he's getting 40% of the work, not catching a lot of passes and not getting touchdowns, that is that's like a worse version of what we saw with Najee Harris with the Steelers. Remember how Najee would just have like 17 for 65 every game, a couple catches?
Yeah, no passes.
But Najee Harris would at least get touchdowns. Like, Bucky has no potential to get touchdowns if they're going to use Sean Tucker. So this is a wild one. Are you in line with RB20 and drafting him? Because there is some nice floor with Bucky Irving because he's going to get some work. RB20 is pretty nice considering last year he was a second-round pick.
Yeah, I mean, he averaged RB1 numbers from the time he took over as a starter in 2024 to his 2025 injury. That's rarefied air right there, especially with where he was drafted. So I think the Buccaneers are super happy with the output. And the Buccaneers love running the ball. As much as we think about the number of wide receivers they've got there and Baker Mayfield being a gunslinger, they averaged over 20 opportunities per game to their running backs last year, which was 4th in the league. So the usage is a real concern, but the opportunity remains there. I'm warming to the Bucky Irving situation. He's a far superior overall running back than either of those other two guys on the roster. And if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers want to win games, they're going to have to put the best player in position to make plays happen. And to me, that's Bucky Irving. I'm not too worried about Sean Tucker. There's a lot of brouhaha made about him taking the goal line work, but we've never seen that consistently, and he's been on the roster there for a number of years.
It's weird because I think Bucky Irving is definitely better than the RB20, like in terms of talent. And, when we talked about him earlier in the offseason, he was going like running back 14, and we were out, right? We were like, we don't want any part of this, because that was even before Sean Tucker resigned, but we assumed that was going to happen. And we were out on RB14. Now I feel like we're both in on Bucky because the price, like at the very least, I know I put RB36. That's like worst case scenario where he plays bad again. He's dinged up. He's not getting the full workload. But I feel like RB6 is more possible than RB36. I feel like he's a guy that worst case scenario for me is like he is a back end RB2 that's just getting, the empty calories, but at least he's getting 3 or 4 receptions. He's getting 70 yards. Like you can do a lot worse than that with, the upside if someone gets hurt as well, Gainwell or Sean Tucker. McAuliffe says, why wouldn't a team give Tucker a shot? I think they do like Tucker. And you've seen him have some breakout games. Sean Tucker has multiple 160-plus yard games where he just goes nuclear, 3 touchdowns. And then we've seen in the past, they just he has the game and then he goes back to getting 3 or 4 touches. So I think I'm more worried about Gainwell as well. And Gainwell is better than Rachaad White. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so, especially, at this point in their respective careers. That's another backfield that's going to be much talked about leading up to draft season, but that's not what we're talking about right now. Tucker's making $3.5 million this year. That's not chump change, but, they love him in a backup role. We've seen him go back to the bench very consistently. So Gainwell worries me a little bit. He is a better all-around back than Sean Tucker, but the talent remains with Bucky Irving. Gainwell's had what is this, his 5th year in the league? Gainwell, 6th year?
I think it's his 5th year. It's not 6.
Yeah, and he's flashed at times, but he's not been consistently a difference maker for any team.
Would you rather have Bucky, Swift, Montgomery, or Tootin? Who do you have ranked highest?
Bucky Irving.
Really?
Yeah,
I want Montgomery over Bucky.
Yeah, I mean, in a PPR, I just don't know that there's the upside is with Montgomery. Like I'm hesitant. Montgomery's a good back, but I'm hesitant to crown him a league winner just because of the talent around him, right? The lack.
I feel like Bucky has more upside for sure, but there's inherent downside with Bucky. That's why he's on this list. Like David Montgomery is much more going to be on the safe players list, which I like that sometimes. Moreau has a good question. Shout out to Moreau, by the way. We're building a banger at his dynasty team right now. Kind of tag teaming this up. It's awesome. It's an awesome team. Who would you feel better about going in as your RB2, Tootin or Irving? So this is a segue that we're going to talk about at the end of this because guess what? My first guy is Bashal Tootin, running back 26. I feel like he is a perfect guy for this list. I'll give you my range of outcomes first. So I had Bucky Irving RB6 to RB36. Bashal Tootin RB8 is the upside, and that might sound crazy, but Liam Cohen literally made Bucky Irving that good. That was under his scheme. And then running back 40 is his downside because if Chris Rodriguez is taking all the goal line work and just getting the early down stuff, and LaQuinn Allen is already pretty much cemented in there as the third down back, at least the pass protecting back, whatever that means. Three-way committee, is Bashal Tootin actually good? I'm going to ask you that story. Is Bashal Tootin actually good?
Good? Yes. Great? No. So I'm more on the downside here with Tootin. I've gone down this road before, second year back, who didn't flash in his rookie year, mediocre yards per carry, opportunity presented itself, did okay. I'm not really interested, especially because of the Chris Rodriguez is making more than Sean Tucker this year. They went out, Liam Cohen went out and got his guy. Now he's dealing with injury, so we do have to be cognizant of that. But I'm just not interested in. I think this is going to be much more of a headache week in and week out than people are expecting. I think the upside definitely lies with Tootin. I'm not saying that Rodriguez has upside when it comes to this because he's not a pass catcher whatsoever. But he's going to take way more work than people think, and that's going to really cap the upside of Tootin.
Nobody thought Chris Rodriguez was going to make that money. Like, nobody thought he was going to make that much money. It was like, we thought he'd be like we thought he'd get Rashad White money. Somehow Chris Rodriguez makes twice as much money as Rashad White, which that makes no sense based on their past careers, their pedigree, like all that kind of stuff. So I think we have to be worried about Chris Rodriguez. And, I was all about Bashal Tootin before I went back and watched every touch, and that was not impressive to me. But what is impressive is the archetype of running back he is. He's 5'8", right? 210, super sturdy, really fast, solid pass catcher. Like, he has the juice for what we want for fantasy, but he's really raw. So we're not going to know until the season. We'll maybe see some glimpses in preseason. But I want to take shots at him as my RB3. I am not comfortable. So the question, back to Moreau's question, was, who are you more comfortable with as your running back too? This is Irv. Even if I like Tootin more in a vacuum, I'm gonna go with Irving as an RB2 because he's starting in my roster, and I know what I have in Bucky Irving. Would you be surprised week 1 if Tootin had 9 touches?
No, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he had 16 touches.
Right, but what Bucky's gonna have like 15 touches week 1. Like, we're not worried about Bucky's touches. We're worried about how much value those touches actually pose. We're like, Tootin's going to have the high value touches. I don't know about the goal line stuff, but he's going to be catching passes. And unlike Bucky Irving, who's pretty dynamic, Bashal Tootin can take a 70-yard carry to the house. That is where, the fantasy stuff comes in major, but it's just, what is the workload going to be?
If you take a look at the explosive run rate for Bashal Tootin last year, wholly disappointing, whereas Bucky Irving, even with the injury, looked pretty good. I also want to mention LaQuint Allen, right? They drafted LaQuint Allen 2 years ago out of Syracuse. Feel strongly about his pass catching, pass protecting. This smells like a committee to me.
I love LaQuint Allen. He's only 21 years old too, and they were trusting him as a 20-year-old rookie out there protecting Trevor Lawrence. And they were a playoff team. You know what I mean? It wasn't like they were throwing him out there in garbage time when they won 5 games. Like, that is some trust there. And they trusted Bashal Tootin as well. But are you in on, would you trust Bashal Tootin as your RB2? Because I know, obviously, he's the perfect RB3 to have on a bench. Like, perfect. Or even as a flex. But as an RB2.
This is a big dichotomy. I'd be throwing them as an RB3, but I do not want him as my RB2. Again, I've been down this road for several guys that we thought could take the leap in second year, and we haven't seen it. I as an RB2, I would be frustrated, like you said, if he comes out and he gets 8, 9, 10 touches in week 1. You thought you had a locked and loaded RB2, and now you're dealing with a nasty committee.
All right, let's move on to the next guy. And Dakota, we did horizontal for this one, and I'm just testing it out, see what the numbers play. I know traditionally our vertical streams get more views, but the last couple haven't, so I think this looks much better. It's not as good on a phone. You just got to turn it sideways. Let's get to the next name here, and I'm going to stick with running backs. I'm going to go down the list a little bit, story for yours. Jonathan Brooks, running back 44. We're talking about polarizing players, guys that could be very hit or miss this season. Not so much week to week. We're talking as the full spectrum year round. So running back 44, is this a health? This is strictly a health thing for you, story, because workload, what is this?
Yeah, well, he's not the lead back for the Panthers. That's Chuba Hubbard. But I would be willing to bet. I haven't been keeping an eye on ADP, but I'd be willing to bet that those ADPs have narrowed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd say that, right? They're probably getting closer together.
Yeah. So when I started doing best ball it was essentially March, we had Jonathan Brooks at RB 55, 56, and Chuba Hubbard at running back 25, 26, the Bashal Tootin range. Now we're looking at Chuba Hubbard RB 33 and Jonathan Brooks RB 44. So they've both gone, 10 spots in the opposite direction. And if this continues, or this team continues, we might be looking at Chuba Hubbard RB 36 and Jonathan Brooks RB 40, almost back to back, which is wild to me. Yeah. Wild.
I mean, Brooks has the kind of upside that we're looking for in fantasy football, especially in a PPR. He had 1,100 yards rushing for Texas in 2023, and he's got huge pass catching chops, which we love. So the upside's certainly there. The fantasy community seems to think that he's getting steamed up, but are you really willing to trust Jonathan Brooks coming off of 2 torn ACLs? And as great as he looked in college, he's got under 25 snaps under his belt in the NFL. So there's no indication that he's even up to speed when it comes to the NFL yet. So there's your downside right there. It's just a lack of experience and the health right there. But the upside is this offense should take a step forward. We saw that with Bryce Young. I don't think they're going to get an extension done for him this year. Unfortunately, I'd love to see him locked up long term, get a little stability there. But at some point, Brooks might overtake Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard's been great, but he's not a pass catcher, right? He's got a decent nose for the end zone. They like him there, but the bottom line is, like, Brooks was a much better talent. You know, Chuba was fine coming out of Oklahoma State, but Brooks was highly touted coming out of Texas. And if that manifests, the Panthers would be foolish not to keep him on the field. So the upside is definitely there, but the downside is just he's not the same guy that he was prior to that second ACL tear.
They didn't bring anyone in the draft. They brought in Trevor Etienne last year, who is just not he's an Etienne, and he's a worse version of Travis Etienne. Here's my upside and floor here in terms of my range of outcomes. So I think RB20, RB18 is within range if he takes over the job or even gets to the majority job over Chuba, essentially what we saw with Rico Dowdle last year. The downside, I just have dead because this is an injury thing, right? Because he is one injury away. If he has another ACL or even another leg injury, man, at this stage of his career, after all this stuff with, he's still a pretty young player, but it just starts to compound, and it might be a lost career for Jonathan Brooks. And he might be carving his name in the wall, like a specific movie we love. Brooks was here.
Outstanding clip. Perfect clip.
I didn't show the whole thing because I thought that was a little too dark.
Well, you might get demonetized if you show the whole thing.
Well, hey, it's on YouTube, so that's the thing. Is I'm never worried about my clips getting me in trouble because I'm getting them from YouTube. That's the nice little loophole there. But he might just carve himself a little name in the Carolinas locker room because we didn't see him on the field, but he was there, guys. He was drafted in the 3rd round. He got some money. You much prefer Chuba Hubbard than Jonathan Brooks, right? At their cost.
I mean, where's Brooks going again right now?
I mean, running back 44, it's like the 9th round, and Chuba's going in the 7th round. And I guess I'll phrase it like this:
Chuba's the start.
If I'm in a shallow league, I probably want nothing to do with Chuba Hubbard at my bench because where is the upside? I feel like Jonathan Brooks is the upside play. If you want a bench guy to marinate, we've seen what Chuba Hubbard is. He's a volume-based running back that catches some passes, but he's not efficient there. He's decent on the goal line, but he's never going to be, he's never going to ascend to a top 12 back. I think Jonathan Brooks has the potential, if he takes over this job, what you saw with Rico last year, right? Being just a harder runner, a bigger back, a better pass catcher. That is the upside of Jonathan Brooks. So I want Jonathan Brooks on my bench over Chuba, but if I have to go with actually a guy that I trust starting, I trust Chuba Hubbard more than Bashal Tutin. I almost trust Chuba Hubbard more than Bucky Irving early in the year.
Where else are you going to find a starting running back in the 7th round? I mean, when else does that happen? It's pretty rare. So, yeah, you're probably going to want to take the value, especially if Brooks continues. The fact that Brooks is going in the single-digit rounds is wild to me.
I am not taking a lot of Chuba in best ball because I feel like there's a chance he's an expiring asset. And, for these tournaments, I don't want my guy to peak week 5. But in redraft, I'll figure it out later. If I can go wide receiver heavy or take Brock Bowers or even pair Brock Bowers with an elite quarterback like Jaden Daniels, which I don't like to do because now you're really thin at flex or maybe your wide receiver 3 spot, I could do this and actually pull off with Chuba Hubbard in round 7. That gives me a chance to fill up my lineup and feel fine about my starting lineup. And then I have to just really draft running backs late and pair them together and find handcuffs and guys that could emerge later in the year. But like you said, there's just nowhere in the last couple of years we've had any type of starting running back. It's not like this is a starting running back on, the Raiders in a couple years ago or the Jets a couple years ago. This is a decent offense. This team made the playoffs last year, and their offense isn't great, but their defense is much improved. I just think Chuba Hubbard's a value, but Jonathan Brooks running back 44, this could be the biggest swing pick of the draft because he might be out of the league.
He might. Now, the fact that they haven't brought anybody else in means that they're feeling fairly confident in Brooks' recovery. I guess you could take some positive signs for that. I don't want to be completely out on him because this guy does have the opportunity to take over and be the lead back for a franchise that's on the ascent. So I don't want to miss out. If you're drafting best balls now, you definitely want to get some shares. But when it comes to your season-long leagues, it's probably better picks in the 9th round that you can make.
McAuliffe said, let's see. Let's go to Cap here. I feel like people are trying to find a role for Brooks before he has one. Well, I mean, the role is he's the 2. He is the 2 as of right now, because it's definitely not Trevor Etienne. Like, he's a special teams guy in my mind. So, but we've seen them give major workloads to Chuba, like literally 80% snap share. And we saw that. We've kind of seen that with Dave Canales, right? You saw that when Chuba got hurt. Rico was playing like 90% of the snaps. And then the year prior, we saw that with Chuba playing 88% of the snaps. That's kind of how it's going to start. I feel like it's not 80. It might be 73% Chuba and then like 30% Jonathan Brooks. Sounds about fair?
Yeah, I'd say that. Now, I would fully expect that those roles would converge the later we go in the season. So I'm with you on, from a best ball perspective, I agree that Chuba is probably not going to be cracking your lineup near the end of the year, and especially those very valuable weeks and the lead up to the playoff and those playoff teams. You probably don't want Chuba Hubbard with his non-pass catching clogging up your bench there. So I'm fully on board. From a redraft perspective, if I draft Chuba Hubbard in the 7th round, it doesn't work out. There's other opportunities for a bench running back.
Also, thinking about just based on where everyone's going in best ball, like their second option on offense in terms of the pass game is Jalen Coker, who I really do like. But he's going like in the wide receiver 50s. They have no tight end to speak of. It's Tommy Tremble and Jatavian Sanders. So, like, there's a big role here and some big value for where these guys are going. Michael says, yo, what's good? Haven't heard your analysis of Brooks, but he might be the one player I haven't drafted a single time. Again, I drafted a lot of Brooks before his ADP went up. When he was in the 50s, easy money in best ball. Now it just seems like you're drafting him not near his ceiling, because his ceiling is elite. We have him on this segment for a reason, but it's going to take a while, and we don't know what the workload is going to be. It's not going to be great early on.
But in season long, I'm totally fine taking that shot on Brooks and Chuba Hubbard. I think I'd like to have shares of both of those guys in redraft.
All right, I'm gonna hit you guys with the intro. We'll be back with the rest of our list.
Shouldn't that Varsity Blues clip have been Cam Scatterbo?
It could have been Cam Scatterbo, but also Jackson Dart likes to take shots to the head as well.
True.
So,
it looks like Cam to run in on guys when they're in the blue tent and drag them out of there.
Well, you have both those guys in your list, not to spoil too much. So let's go right to your next name. We'll get to my names a little bit later. Malik Willis, quarterback 21. These are boomer bust players. These are polarizing players. And this should only be even considered in either a super flex or a 4 for a passing touchdown league, correct? 6 for a passing touchdown. If you look at Malik Willis's touchdown, it's props like 16.5 passing touchdowns. That is super low.
Seems about right. But we're not drafting Malik Willis for his passing prowess, now are we? We're drafting Malik Willis because he averaged 44.8 rushing yards per game in his 6 starts. Projected over a full 17-game season, that's 760 rushing yards. And quarterbacks who scramble for 700-plus yards, they've historically all finished as top 10 fantasy options 70% of the time. 70% of the time, it works every time. So, I mean, there's a lot of guaranteed money wrapped up with Malik Willis. It's going to be a bad roster, though, and that's where the downside comes in.
Oh, hold on. It's not a bad roster. This is like the worst roster by a mile in the NFL. It's really bad.
Yeah, it's atrocious. We have no idea who the 2 starting wide receivers are going to be. We do have Greg Dulcich getting a little bit of steam in OTAs.
But it's Greg Dulcich. Like, come on. It's he might be their most trusted pass catcher.
Yeah.
That is insane. That is insane.
And the other – so from a fantasy perspective, the upside's there. It's the rushing. It's what we thought Justin Fields could be. They're not replacing him this year. That's just the fact, right? He's not getting benched. He might get injured, but he's not getting benched. So if he stays on the field, that rushing is going to give you top 10 numbers almost certainly. I'm not sure where he's being drafted in single quarterback leagues, but there's a lot of upside. The downside again is the lack of starts in the NFL, the bad roster, the fact that he's operated mostly in pass-heavy schemes, right? Run-heavy schemes, like very run-heavy offenses. And I don't believe he's even attempted like 25 passes per game. So we don't know what that passing ability looks like from a full 17-game schedule. So that's the downside. The downside is not as bad as Justin Fields, which was like you're off the face of the earth last year, which we were high on Justin Fields because of the rushing upside. So the rushing upside, well, top 8, probably, right? Like with rushing, top 8, because the passing is just not going to be there. Downside, wide or quarterback 26.
So I have quarterback 8, it's quarterback 25, and so Malik Willis has been really efficient as a passer in Green Bay, but it's really easy to be efficient as a passer when, like you said, they're in a run heavy scheme. They're in positive game scripts where it's like the team's kind of selling out to stop the run. In this case, the game script's going to be awful. I mean, it's going to be good for fantasy in a way where it's like they're trailing games, but when teams know that they don't have to worry about the run, at least from the running backs, and the pass catchers we talked about, which is they're non-existence. This is a really, really bad situation for Malik Willis. The only upside is the legs, man. And I really think, and I told you this a month ago, and you laughed at me. I think Malik Willis has 1,000-yard rushing potential this year. How could he not? I mean, he's not. Who is he throwing the ball to? He is nobody. He's got to run the ball. He's going to be running for his life. 1,000 yards.
That's why I think Achane's just going to get an absolute butt ton of work this year, too.
When they can, right? But there's going to be a point where it's going to be more in the passing game. That's a nice little piece of the puzzle for him because Achane can't take a screen pass at the house. That's the only player that he has that can actually do that, do anything for him with the ball in his hands.
Well, we need what's his name with the ACL injury. He got drafted.
Chris Bell. I don't think Chris Bell is in their plans this year because they're trying to lose. Chris Bell's coming back week 10 at the earliest, dude.
I mean, from a season-long perspective, I don't know where he's being drafted. Is he near the top 12? I'm not really following ADP.
Sorry, I didn't hear. I was reading a comment.
From a ADP perspective, single quarterback, say 4-point per passing touchdown league. Where's he being drafted?
Well, it's quarterback 21, and it's going to be in my Fantrax leagues where there's no trades and it's 18-round drafts, 12-team deep rosters. He's going to be drafted in every league because everyone drafts 2 quarterbacks. But in your typical home league, he won't be drafted in a lot of these leagues.
So, yeah. Okay. So if you got shallow benches, forget about it. If you got deep benches, you draft a Matthew Stafford, a Brock Purdy, somebody to start. You throw Malik Willis on the back of your bench. You see what happens the first couple of weeks. Now, I mean, from a dynasty perspective, you probably want to be hands off. Like if he struggles, I mean, they could be looking for a quarterback in 27, and it's a really good draft class as well. So even though there's guaranteed money there, $45 million isn't that much to these franchises these days. Yeah, I'd be really cautious about him in dynasty, but I'm fine again taking a shot, keeping an eye on him, picking him up after a week or two, and seeing what happens in single quarterback leagues.
Achane is probably their number one pass catcher, but here's the kind of problem with the archetype of players they are. So Malik Willis is a pretty aggressive passer. He wants to throw the ball downfield when he does throw the ball. He's not a check down guy. And if they're going to use Achane in a more diversified role, as in like lining up in the slot a little bit or actually sending him out on some bigger boy routes opposed to just screen passes, because under Tua, he had some wheel routes, but it was typically just check downs to Devin Achane, right? Like even if they line up in the slot, it was a quick hitter. Like that is not Malik Willis's game. That's not what he likes to do. And also he's pretty inaccurate at those throws. He is definitely better at intermediate and deep ball passing. So how do you think they're going to use Achane in this passing game? Because if it's going to be strictly screen stuff, yeah, they're going to design some of this stuff for him. But I don't think it's going to be that lucrative of a role in terms of volume because that's just not the quarterback Malik Willis is.
It's not the quarterback that he was in Tennessee, and it's not the quarterback that we saw for the brief period of time that he started in Green Bay. But who's to say that is the quarterback that he's going to be going forward? We're dealing with a very small sample size of what we've seen. It was a pretty underwhelming career in Tennessee. He looked really good in LaFleur's offense in Green Bay. That's fine. So I'm just not convinced that we're going to, because who's he taking deep shots to? Like you say, he wants to press the ball downfield. they're not going to be able to press the ball downfield. They're going to have to manufacture yards here, and that runs through. I'm with Hetzer 100%. This is Achane's opportunity for volume, and we've seen him do it with volume, we've seen him do it with efficiency. He's going to be worked to the bone this year, and I love it. I think there's tons of upside with Achane, and just from a sheer volume perspective, because they're not going to be able to move the ball deep downfield, or even intermediate shots is going to be very difficult to come by. So they're going to have to utilize Achane way more in the underneath game than what people are thinking.
The biggest problem with Malik Willis is, we mentioned the game flow stuff, and, there's a point where, like, we want our quarterbacks to be trailing. That's when you can compile really the Blake Bortles effect. Remember that season? Like, that was awesome. Blake Bortles was always coming through with 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and 200 yards passing in the fourth quarter, down by 20 points. But there's also a point where it gets so bad and they just pull the starters because they're down by 30 points. And I always tell the story about, I bet on Geno Smith's rushing prop last year. It was like 6.5 yards against the Chiefs. And they lost the game like 37-6. And the Raiders ran like 28 plays. Like, it was 3 and out every time. It was 3 and out, 3 and out. They get a first down, he throw a pick. And, like, at that point, they just had no plays. There was not enough plays for him to even be a relevant quarterback. And he didn't even hit the rushing prop. So, like, if Malik Willis we love Kellen Moore's offense because guess what? Even when they're winning games, they're fucking going up fast tempo and running a bunch of plays. If this offense is probably going to be a bottom 3 in plays ran, because they want to try to muck it up, right? So that's an issue for me.
Potentially.
Seemingly.
Yeah, that's an issue for you for Malik Willis or for Achane?
Both. This whole offense.
Yeah, again, it doesn't really – like for Malik Willis, I get it. But for Achane, it doesn't really matter because the volume is going to be there. And, again, we've seen him do it with efficiency too. So, marry those together, I think Achane is both safe and has upside.
Mark has a question here. How much weight do you put on college workload when predicting longevity for running backs? For example, comparing a workhorse in JT versus a rare case in Cook splitting backfield most of his career. So that's kind of a good question for you, Story, because you're the college guy.
Yeah, it's a good question. I honestly don't put stock into it whatsoever because we've seen guys who have a very minimal workload in terms of like actually running the ball come out and be hugely successful for many years. And then you've got guys like Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, Adrian Peterson, who had, 1,200 carries in college or whatever it is. And they have very long careers, even when they're getting 22, 23 opportunities per game. So there's really, I don't have any data to back that up one way or the other. I'd love to see a study about it if there is a review on the longevity in NFL careers, but it'd be pretty in-depth study. From my
Get to work, Story. Get to work.
Yeah, I know, right? Anecdotally, I just don't. I've never seen it be that much of an issue, so I don't put any stock into it.
Fair.
My name's Honey Boo Boo, and I'm a beauty queen, bitches. I'm fat as a whale, and I don't give 2 shits, girl.
Her favorite foods are sketty and butter, and she likes drinking Red Bull and Mountain Dew.
I'm only 6, and I've already had 3 heart attacks, girlfriend.
Come on now, Boo Boo. Now get up and wave to them judges. We ain't got no shame about our weight, because our weight makes us sassy.
Little segue to Cam Scatterbo, mostly the trying to get revived on stage, which Brian Daboll tried to do a couple times, peeking his head in the tents. He would have definitely figured out a way to 100%. So Cam Scatterbo, running back 19. This is your guy here. I'm going to give you my range of outcomes first. Running back 5 is the upside. Running back 30 is the downside. And this has to do with, I know we're not talking about injuries too much here, but it has to do with him missing, 2 or 3 games for concussions or stuff like that. And also, with Tyron Tracy eating into this workload, if it's a 50-50 split, which it might be a 50-50 split, right? It might be.
Yeah, might be. I don't think it will be, but it might be.
I just always would go back to the draft capital thing. Cam Scatterbo was not people think he's like a 2nd-round pick. He was a 4th-round pick. Tyron Tracy was a 5th-round pick. Tyron Tracy's actually been better efficiency-wise through his career, besides the fumbles, take away the fumbles, than the 1 year of Cam Scatterbo. And I was talking about someone last night about this in the stream. They were like, well, Tyron Tracy, didn't get back. Once he came back from that injury, he didn't get back into the fold, and it was actually Devin Singletary mixing in. And when Scatterbo went down, it was 50-50 with those two. I think that was because Tyron Tracy was still hurt. That was why. You mentioned the injury when it happened, the shoulder injury. It was a repeat injury from college.
Yeah. You mentioned 4th-round pick, Scatterbo. Yes, sure, he was a 4th-round pick, but he was an early 4th-round pick, right?
Correct,
so
yeah.
Almost a day 2.
Hetzer says also sorry for missing out on the streams lately. What a guy. Hetzer, you're the GOAT. You just gives me $2 to apologize for not. I haven't seen you the last couple of days. You're usually always here, but you know what? We're always here, and you know what? Every night you're going to always find us, at least me, on this program for hours on end, rambling about Cam Scatabo and Honey Boo Boo and all those things. Are you in on this price on Cam Scatabo? Like, do you weigh the upside? What's more likely to happen? The downside of, we mentioned the concussions, the potential of a timeshare, and also the potential this offense is kind of garbage with Neighbors being in and out of the lineup this year. We don't really know about Jackson Dart. He's also a run-first quarterback that will steal some of those goal line touchdowns. So which one are you buying in on more, the upside or the downside?
Give me the upside. Give me all the Cam Scatabo. I am salivating at the opportunity to draft Cam Scatabo this year. So I'll get to the injury. That's a big concern. I'll get to his style of play. That's the bigger concern. But this 5% touchdown rate and his receiving out of the backfield are drool-worthy aspects when it comes to fantasy football upside, right? Like we saw it at Arizona State. He's going to be used often down at the goal lines. Tracy's not a huge goal line guy. But he's more than just a bulldozer. Like, he's a valuable receiver. He's shifty. He's quick. He doesn't have long speed, but 8.7 yards after the catch. I want to roster him everywhere I can. The downside, obviously, is him coming back from a really nasty fibula injury, dislocated ankle. But we saw him do a backflip. That's a lot of force on that ankle. So that, fine, check a couple boxes there. What's more concerning, though, is his style of play. He runs towards contact. Right, a lot of guys will run out of bounds or get down or avoid contact. He runs towards contact, and that's punishing to the defenders, makes them think twice about tackling him. But it leads to more wear and tear and potential season-ending injury. So the downside is it ends his season as early as it did last year, halfway through the season. The upside is RB1, and I'm not sure where he's being drafted running back wise, probably in the RB2 range. If you get RB1 upside, that I love where he's being drafted.
One of the concerns about the injury was it was actually worse than the Pacheco injury, which obviously Pacheco's never been the same. And the biggest issue with Pacheco was he came back too early in the same season, which this is at least a whole separate season. But Cam Scatabo and Pacheco seem to be similar type dudes where, like, they're really tough and they're going to try to force their way back on the field. And of course, Cam's going to say he's fine. I think he's fine. But what if he does? What if he is forcing a little too quick? And I'm not saying he suffers a setback, but if he is not, the same player he was last year, and Cam Scatabo is not a speed merchant already. If he's only 80% of his former self, at least early on in the year, that's a little rough because Tyrone Tracy is almost the same player, not the same archetype of player, but almost the same skill level, and just he's a good running back. And also, one of the worries is, do we think Cam Scatabo is going to get 75% workload? Because Derrick Henry barely got that, and Derrick Henry is an all-time talent with John Harbaugh.
No, but I don't think 68% is out of the range of possibilities. And in today's NFL, give me high upside touches at 68%, right? We saw what he did out of the backfield from a receiving standpoint, and it's not like Tyrone Tracy or Devin Singletary took over the goal line role while Scatabo was in. Scatabo, for all intents and purposes, was the workhorse. So it felt like he had really taken over that role. Assuming full health, I think I have no questions that he'll continue to maintain that role going into 2026.
And Jackson Dart loves. I mean, everyone loves Scatabo, but they're besties, bro. This is super tight.
Yeah. So if you can stomach the risk, I think he's worth a shot. Where's he being drafted?
It's running back 19, and it's the fourth, fifth round. So
that's a mid to late RB2 with RB1 upside. I'm eager.
Blake says that Scatabo performance versus Texas in the college football playoff 2 years ago was fucking legendary. It was beyond legendary. It was one of the best games ever played. He threw a touchdown, caught a touchdown, and rushed for a touchdown with like 250 all-purpose yards.
Yeah,
and that was Bill Walton level. Like the perfect 21-21 in different sports, obviously, but against a way bigger school in Texas. No one gave him a shot. They lost that game in overtime, I believe, but like Cam Scatabo did everything he could have done.
Is by feeding Scatabo because he was the best player on the field.
We got a dynasty question here. I think this is supposed to be Chuba Hubbard. Should I do Chuba Hubbard, Omar Cooper, and Hockenson for Kyle Pitts and A.J. Brown in dynasty? Yeah. Oh, Adams, Hubbard. Okay, so I got it. Adams, so Devontae Adams, Chuba Hubbard, Omar Cooper, and Hockenson for Kyle Pitts. Yeah, do that trade in a heartbeat.
Yeah, man. Hawkinson.
Adams is 1 year left, right? Adams is 1 year left.
Well,
Hubbard might lose his job.
Hubbard, yeah, could be overtaken. Cooper's got, from a dynasty perspective, there's nice long-term opportunity. But Hawkinson is. You ever seen Jason and the Argonauts? You know those skeletons, those stop-motion skeletons? That's how Hawkinson looks right now.
Dude, you're not going to come here and talk about fucking give me shit about TJ Hawkinson. I'm going to tell you to leave because I don't like it.
This gives me an idea. She's dead.
Well, I forgot about that clip.
It's a good one. Yeah, definitely do this trade, man. I mean, Adams has 1 year left. You're getting Kyle Pitts, who's 25 years old, and A.J. Brown, who has a couple years left. Now he's tied to Drake May.
Kyle Pitts just signed an extension, too. So he's going to be playing in Atlanta in a really nice tight end-friendly scheme for a number of years.
Made a bet for a case of beer that the Cowboys have finished better than the Vikes. I like the Cowboys all day over the Vikings. Just the division. You hate the Cowboys, so don't listen to this fucking guy. Hell, man. All right, we got to move on to the next name here, and it is my guy here. Not my guy, but my name on the list, because Marion Hampton is most definitely not my guy. Running back 9. My range of outcomes. So I see some upside here, like obviously extreme upside based on Mike McDaniel and, good offensive line, Justin Herbert. RB3. I think he has RB3 overall potential story. I mean, come on, the pass catching is elite. I'm not a big Keaton Mitchell guy. Kamani Vidal is just kind of a guy, but they like both those running backs. But the downside, staying healthy, all these things, is running back 22. Because if it's a three-way committee and you have Kamani Vidal getting third down work and you have, Keaton Mitchell essentially playing that Devin A-chain role, the Marion Hampton slots into, the early down work with some pass catching. And he'd probably get the goal line work, but we don't know. Do we know Marion Hampton's good? I guess is the first thing I'll say.
No, I mean we know he was a good prospect, but it's a very small sample size in the NFL of him being on tape. So I think we're uncertain of how good of a talent he is.
You think running back 3 is too aggressive for a ceiling? I mean, because he's getting drafted running back 9, so it's only a 6. I know it's a pretty rare error. I'm not going to put him ahead of Bijan and Gibbs, but McCaffrey's getting a year older. JT there's question marks there with the Colts offense. There's no question marks with this offense. And the scheme of McDaniel with the quarterback and just everything there is awesome for Hampton, but it's a workload thing. It's literally It comes down to if it's a three-way committee, Marion Hampton is not going to meet his ADP. No way.
I mean, there's only so many guys that could finish top 3, or top 5, let alone top 3. But man, I think it's within his range of outcomes. I don't think it's likely. I think it's much more likely he finishes RB 18 than RB 3. The signing of Keaton Mitchell cannot be overlooked. I mean, he was very productive in his limited touches in Baltimore. I mean, that's also a McDaniel style of running back. Harbaugh really talked very glowingly about Vidal last year. Vidal was very trusted in the passing game. They love him as a pass protector and on third down. So there's a number of things that could go away from Marion Hampton. But if this offense takes the huge leap forward that a lot of people are expecting, we saw what Achane did in the McDaniel offense in Miami. Does that translate to Marion Hampton? I think Achane is a better talent than Marion Hampton. But the fact of the matter is you've got Justin Herbert versus Tua Tagovailoa. So, yeah, I think it's possible, but it's a small chance that he's RB3. I do think it's within his range of outcomes.
Are you in on him in this price, though, RB9? So he's going around that whole group of running backs where it's Saquon Barkley, it's Achane, it's Derrick Henry, it's Chase Brown. He's going a little after, Genty and James Cook, but sometimes I've seen Hampton go ahead of those guys. So there's a giant tier of 7 or 8 running backs that he is smack dab in the middle of. So how do you frame it there? Is he fine where he's going? I much prefer, in a half PPR especially, I prefer Derrick Henry. In full PPR, it's scoring for me. I prefer Achane over Hampton in full PPR. And if it's half PPR, I want Henry over Hampton. So I just won't be getting very much Hampton this year because for me it's scoring dependent. I think Hampton's probably better in full PPR, but he's not Devin Achane,
Right. So he looked good in the passing game last year, and Herbert loves to check down. So I agree full PPR is probably a better option. He was looking good before the ankle injury, but he was kind of mid when he came back, and they were subbing in Vidal on third and longs for pass protection, as I mentioned. ankle injuries can be tricky. I know I just kind of talked about that with Scadabo. I'm not really worried about it. I guess the fact that he came back later in the season does give me hope that he'll be full go come September. His floor is decent. I'm going to be watching camp and preseason closely and just making sure that he is back to full form. In that case, if he is, then I'm probably at market with him at RB9, RB8, RB9, RB10, somewhere in that range. If he's looking sluggish, then you might want to bump him down a notch or two, with the understanding that Keaton Mitchell is there, right? They didn't sign him for no reason.
You see Hampton more as a floor play than some of these other guys we had on the list? Because that's how I see him.
I do, yeah. Because
I think he's overdrafted, though.
I think, yes, definitely more of a floor play than anybody else that we've talked about so far. 100%.
All right, we have a question for Arkham. Purdy or Dart? So in Dynasty, they're close either way because Dart has the upside, especially if it's a 4 for a passing touchdown league. Like Dart is the cheat code, even though Purdy can get it done with his legs a little bit too. Is a safe option just Purdy in general? So in redraft this year, Purdy's going quarterback 12, quarterback 13. Dart's going quarterback 10, quarterback 11. So Dart goes a little earlier than him. Who are you siding with? I know sometimes you're a little risk adverse here. You'd probably take Brock Purdy?
Yeah, probably take Brock Purdy. But if you are shooting for upside, then it's Jackson Dart. The thing is, we just don't know how good of a passer Jackson Dart is because it was a limited sample last year. So it remains to be seen, as well as how good this offense is going to be, right? He only played one game with Malik Neighbors last year, and that was the game he got hurt. So, but Malik Neighbors might start on the pup. He might not be himself for a full month, et cetera, et cetera. So you mentioned the offensive concerns just in general, how prolific the offense could be. The safe play is definitely Purdy.
I would tend to agree with you there, but again, it's scoring for me. If it's a 6 for passing touchdown league, it's easy Brock Purdy. It's not even close. And in Dynasty, Dart's younger, but Purdy seems like a guy that's going to be in the league for a while. Where there's some, we know Brock Purdy's pretty good at football. Do we know Jackson Dart's good? We've seen a lot of these rookies come in and without tape on them, dominate. C.J. Stroud, Jaden Daniels. Like we've seen them be really good and then take step backs, like a big step back. Brock Purdy has had sustained success through 4 years, and you might be like, well, he had Kyle Shanahan. It appears you're going to have Kyle Shanahan for a long time now. I don't think Kyle Shanahan's going anywhere. Brock Purdy they paid, he's not going anywhere. And they will retool this offense. They can make stars out of anyone. So I think it's Brock Purdy for me.
I will say the downside rests in what do his pass catchers look like? Is Ricky Pearsall actually the guy? Is Mike Evans? Does Mike Evans still have it? Can George Kittle come back to form? Is Christian McCaffrey going to maintain his prolific pass catching, et cetera, et cetera? If the weapons aren't as robust as we've seen with Purdy in the past, I think therein lies the risk.
All right, Jadarian Price is my next guy on the list. Running back 25. Oh, this one's tough, man. This is the ultimate risk-reward pick. In my mind, I'm not a Price guy, not as a talent, not as in the situation. I think it's getting way overrated and how good it's going to be for him. And I think everyone's just looking at the fact he was a first-round pick, last pick of the first round, whoop-de-doo. I don't like the player. I don't like the situation. Even without Charbonnet to start the year potentially, Helani, it's going to be a 3-way committee. That's without Charbonnet. That's what they're saying, without Charbonnet. And then they love Zach Charbonnet. They chose to get rid of Kenneth Walker for a reason. And I don't think it was to draft Jadarian Price. I think it was because they like Helani, and their plan is Zach Charbonnet. And they did that even knowing that Charbonnet had the ACL. They needed some depth there, and also Jadarian Price is an elite kick returner. So is this a fine bench running back for you? Because for me, it's too pricey for a bench running back. He's going ahead of Chuba Hubbard by 7 running back spots. He's going right around Basal Tootin. It's not even close. I want Basal Tootin over Jadarian Price by a mile. Are you drafting Jadarian Price at all this year at this cost?
RB25 is a little rich for me. Now, people point to the fact that he was a first-round draft pick. It's fine. It was a bit of a luxury pick for the Seahawks. And also, the first round that he was drafted in is not even close to comparable to Jeremiah Love, right? He was the second running back off the board, but the 32nd pick off the board is a wild difference from the second overall, first, second, fourth overall, whatever. Where was Love drafted? Third overall? Third overall. Anyway, I would say the upside is in PPR, right? He looked pretty capable as a pass catcher during spring practices. according to most beat reports. So he didn't get a ton of targets in college, but that's likely due to the fact that he played behind Jeremiah Love and Notre Dame's system. It's not a knock on his skill set. He's a fluid pass catcher. He's got good hands. Shouldn't come as a big surprise that he looked good in spring. And with Charbonnet missing a good chunk of the year, I mean, at the very least, very, very, very least 4 games, but I think we're closer to 2 months. He could find a pretty valuable role as a Seahawks pass catching back, which they seem to really like. So RB25, if he creeps up more than that, if he gets into the RB20 range, that seems like it's got bad pick, bust written all over it. As it stands right now, you know, that there's a valuable opportunity to be that pass catching running back in the Seahawks system.
So Price was going running back 21, running back 22 right after he was drafted by the Seahawks. And then he slowly crept back to running back 25, 26 with the news about them talking. They've talked up everyone but Jadarian Price. And this could be a smokescreen by the team, but also coinciding with the news that, Zach Charbonnet, the original reports were week 10, week 11. Now they're saying there's a chance he might be ready to start the year. Like you said, it's probably going to be somewhere in between that, probably week 4, week 5. But that's still only the first 4 weeks, and that's not the weeks we want for Price to have the backfield to himself because he's a rookie. And he's going to be splitting time. And then when Charbonnet comes back, that's a muddy situation from a team that was not efficient running the ball up until the fantasy playoffs and then the NFL playoffs. And
I mean, doesn't George Lonnie just remind you of Chris Carson? Like 6th-round running back Chris Carson. They love Chris Carson up there in Seattle. This
remember,
could be
doesn't Jadarian Price remind you of Rashad Penny? Didn't we comp him? Wasn't that our comp for him, Rashad Penny?
Yeah, that's you did mention that. Yeah, this could be a gross mix of Halani, Wilson, and Price, and then you throw in Charbonnet when he comes back, and it's gonna be nasty. It's gonna be a lot like the Buccaneers situation last year.
I'm out. I am so out on Jadarian Price, but I will say this: if his price continues to fall, no pun intended, and he starts going to running back 30, right? And he's going around the Chuba Hubbard range, and he's a 3rd to 4th running back possibly on my team. Then I like that potential because what if Charbonnet has a setback? What if he actually in his 7 or 8 touches he gets early in the year really earns a role? Because I think we all agree he has the talent to earn a role, but it's not going to be given to him. I think everyone's assuming they're just going to give it to him. No way.
I don't know if people are assuming that. I mean, again, it'll be a mix, but what happens come week 5 when George Halani and Wilson are extremely underwhelming to start? Because these guys are, I don't want to call them also rans, but Wilson never pushed Josh Jacobs for touches. Halani has been fine, but he's not a difference maker. And everybody's expecting Charbonnet back, but he tore his ACL in mid-January. What if he has a setback? What if the recovery isn't as quick as people think, or to the standard timeline? Charbonnet is a different type of running back, like so I don't know. I do kind of see where he could grow into a bigger role.
Derek says Price is a great pick in Dynasty. Best ball, not so much. Derek says Dart in Dynasty easy. Dude's going to have 400 to 500 yards rushing and 6 to 8 touchdowns a year. Do you have both Price and Dart on your team? I'm just wondering because sometimes that happens. The only problem with Dart is it's like it's Dynasty, right? Like we don't know he's great yet. He has to prove that to me. And then the health thing, man. He just might be one of those guys that just can't stay healthy. He's always going to get concussions. Like he's going to just get tore up. He keeps on playing like this. He needs Neighbors back. We need Neighbors to take some pressure off the dude, and maybe he won't have to run the ball 9 times a game, run up the middle on 3rd and 6.
Hopefully. I mean, we want to see him upright for all 17 games, but if there was one quarterback that you would wager wouldn't play all 17 games, for me it'd be Jackson Dart.
Yeah, or Malik Willis, just based on them benching him.
He's not getting benched. Like
I mean like shutting him down because they want to get the number 1 overall pick. It's not benching, but you know what I'm saying.
I was going to say maybe Matthew Stafford, but that guy's tough.
You think I can get a deal done? You think if I could get a deal done, Price for Scatterbo, should I do it? Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
I would do that.
I want Scatterbo. Yeah. Tua is actually the answer, but Tua won't be able to play the whole year because they're going to go with Michael Penix, right? They're going to go Penix at some point. They have to.
When he's healthy, I'm fairly confident he's the starter there.
Arkham, it seems like you're a pretty big Dynasty guy. We talk about a lot of this stuff in the Discord in the community. I am willing to help anyone out with their Dynasty teams, trades, all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested to hop in, go to the link in the description, go to the website, and join the community because we are willing to help out anybody. And I like doing it. Also, I do want to shout out to the Patreon bros. You gotta go to the bathroom. See, I know what he's doing. I can see it in his eyes. I can see it in the story's eyes. He had to take a little tinkle. So I do want to shout out to all the Patreon members here, sticking with me all off season, and we appreciate that. So anyone that's interested, we offer a lot of good stuff, a lot of different tiers for every different level of support. But the Discord community is the place to be. We have community fantasy leagues. We still have one spot left in the Best Ball League, $50 Best Ball League on Sleeper. Going to be really deep, 24 rounds. We're going to vote on all the settings, though. Guest appearances on the show. We just had Derek on 2 nights ago. Tomorrow, we're going to have Dakota on the show with Big Ray doing some best ball drafts. Free merchandise giveaways, hats, and shirts every single month, and also access to the betting plays, guys. This is last year's this is the career stats on the show, but it is 96 and 58 last year on even odds bets, 205 and 125 lifetime, and we're going to even have a better year this year. So if you like betting, that's going to make its money back and probably make you a lot more money than what you're paying to get in here. I do release the bets on Saturday, but I place these on Wednesday, so you want to get in there to get the actual odds. Hats are the $2 banger. Discord is the place to be. I think it's what it is, right? It's the place to be.
What do you call it, Kramer? It was. Come on, Rudy. Come on. We call it the place. The place to be. Yes.
So go to the website, link in the description, or just go over to Patreon and search Professional Fanatics, and you'll see all the different tiers. Any questions, just ask myself or anyone in the comment section. They'll be more than willing to help you out because they're all in there. They all love it. It is the place to be. Blake is buzzing about the hit he had earlier. He did 2 correct scores in the World Cup, 3-0 and 2-1, $10 to win like $900. That's big time. That's a big time. That's one of the best bets he's ever hit. I mean, that's a pretty big bet. That's 90-1 odds. That's 90-1 odds. That's pretty goddamn good.
A reminder to anybody who is wagering on sports, check and see what books you have available to in your state. Sign up for all of them because those odds vary wildly from book to book. Make sure you're getting the best odds. It's one of the best ways that you can improve your profit ratio right off the bat is just finding the best odds.
Yeah, so I usually use 3 or 4 books. I did 3 last year for the show, and then I'm going to add a 4th book in this year. And, a lot of times you'll see George Pickens at 71 and also at 75, a different book. If you like the over at 75, then just go fucking find 71. Yeah. And that's also the thing of getting into the community because you can get the bets on Saturday when I do the show, the betting show, but I place the bet on Wednesday. And Story, usually within a day of me placing these bets, they move the other direction a lot. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to get a guy at 54. By the time you see it on Saturday, it might be up to 61 yards. Now, you might win it too, but when there's a 6-yard gap, there's a good chance that you will get under the 60 yards and I'll get over on 54. So we want to get these bets in a timely manner. That's the key to get the exact same record that we're getting.
The only way you're going to be able to do that is just to get into Discord. These player props, they drop early in the week, but they move up. I've never seen a player prop drop without injury news. Like it always goes up.
Pretty much because people don't bet unders also.
Right.
That's the thing. It's just based on.
Nobody's betting player unders. Nobody wants to sit there and hope that Mike Evans doesn't catch, 100 yards.
I bet a few. I do recall one of my big misses last year with Jackson Dart's first game, and we talked about it. It was 44 yards they set it at, which was wildly high in my mind. He had 38 in the first quarter. I'm just like, I finally bet an under. And Jackson Dart he just wasn't throwing. He was just, and I didn't realize he was that. Like, at Ole Miss, he was not that type of player. He ran around the goal line, but I guess I just underrated Brian Daboll's crazy-ass offensive scheme and essentially saying, like, we don't care about your health or your head. You're out there running first, buddy. You're running. Good
luck. Yeah, good luck.
All right, back to the list here. This is an interesting one from Story. It is Drake May at quarterback 3. So quarterback 3 is pretty aggressive. Are you just doing this so you're just telling everyone to look at you?
No, Cookies, absolutely not. You're going to get hyper.
I am not hyper.
Look what I can do. That suit is not holding at all. Look what I can do.
Look what Story can do, posting Drake May on this specific list. Boomer bust players, polarizing players. Is it just come down to the quarterback 3 tag, price tag, and not so much the player, because he's in that same range, but he's still closer to the Caleb, Jaden Daniels tier than he is Lamar Jackson, but he's the first one of this tier to go off. So is that what it comes down to for you?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think he's a safe pick at quarterback 3?
No, I don't think any quarterback's a safe pick at 3 unless Josh. I don't think Josh Allen's a safe pick at pick 34 overall. Like Lamar seems like the value at pick 55. That's the value because we've seen Lamar Jackson multiple years be the MVP and be the best quarterback in fantasy. We've seen 1 year out of Drake May. He looked pretty good as a rookie. You get A.J. Brown, though, right? And you have a much tougher schedule, which works both ways, right? Like, there's an argument that it's going to be had. The passing volume will most certainly go up because last year it was just basically straight efficiency, and the deep ball stuff was unreal. But he was throwing to Kayshon Boutte and Pop Douglas and Stephon Diggs. Now he has A.J. Brown and Romeo Doubs. Way, way better cast of characters, but quarterback 3 is rich, dude.
Yeah, I mean, a much better cast of characters there. There's an argument to be made that his sophomore season, as good as it was, is just a taste or an appetizer of things to come. He could easily have an even better third year in the league. But what does a third year in the league mean? It's not better than Josh Allen, and it's probably not better than a fully healthy Lamar Jackson. So I think he's being drafted at his ceiling. Like if he's being drafted at QB2, that's just out of control. If he's being drafted at QB3, I think that's his ceiling. That's a high price for a quarterback who's only got 2 years of experience. Doesn't run a whole ton. Like he does have a few touchdowns on the ground. That's fine. They've got high hopes for him, but he's not going to sneak up on anybody this year. Nobody thought that he would take the leap that he did into year 2 in the Patriot system, especially with all the playoff games that we saw last year. There's a whole season of film. We see what happens when you get a whole season of film on these guys, right? Justin Fields, Jaden Daniels, Houston quarterback. I can't think of his name right now.
C.J. Stroud.
C.J. Stroud. Thank you. He had a 79.1 passer rating in the playoffs. So the Seahawks definitely figured out a way to slow him down. But as you mentioned, bringing A.J. Brown on, there's probably going to be a bit of a honeymoon period. So don't be surprised if both those guys, especially A.J. Brown, starts out a little slow. 31-8 touchdown interception ratio last year, 113.5 quarterback rating. Like, there's an argument to be made that he can regress and still finish as a QB3 or 4. But again, like I think he's being drafted at his ceiling. Like if the offense takes a step back in general, defense is a little better this year. He's not as efficient. Then QB9 is not out of the realm of possibility, especially because he doesn't give you a ton on the ground.
So me and Chaz talked about this last night with Jalen Hurts in particular about the addition by subtraction without A.J. Brown. We love the talent. I think A.J. Brown's still not quite in his prime, but he's still an elite wide receiver, top 10 guy. But is there some pressure on Drake May? And, hopefully, these guys, when they move teams, we've seen it with Diggs, they're on their best behavior on the first year on the team, at least the first half of the year. He's not going to be crying like he was at Jalen Hurts. But, Drake May last year was spreading the ball. We don't know that. And Drake May was spreading the ball around last year. That's sometimes very freeing for a quarterback just to not have to worry about personalities and getting the ball, getting the target numbers up. We saw this with T.O. for years and Chad Ochocinco, right? And, I'm sorry. A.J. Brown's getting into that tier for me of just these annoying dudes that feel like they need the ball, and they're only happy if they get their targets. They don't care if they win the game. And Drake May had the perfect situation last year beyond the schedule of, guess what? If Pop Douglas is open, I'm throwing to him. Kayshon Boutte, Stephon Diggs was on his best behavior because it was his first year on that new team. There was no player that, Hunter Henry, they're all selfless guys. Now you have A.J. Brown coming in where it's like, man, I got to get A.J. Brown feeling comfortable. I got to pepper him with some targets. And clearly that did not work for the Eagles last year. I'm not saying it's likely. I just think there's a chance this happens. I have a range of outcomes, though, of quarterback 1 for Drake May. There is a chance that Drake May is quarterback 1 this year because he does have the rushing cheat code. Last year, he underperformed in terms of rushing touchdowns. 4 rushing touchdowns. I think his expected rushing touchdown number was 6. And he's a big dude. He's not Lamar Jackson. He is much more Josh Allen, and he can impose his will. I think last year they were blowing teams out. Vrabel was probably telling him to be a little smarter, but maybe he plays a little bit more like Jackson Dart this year because they'll have more urgency in these games because, they might be a 500 team. That isn't the range of outcomes, guys. This is a Super Bowl hangover waiting to happen. Maybe Drake May plays worse in real life this year, which he most certainly will, but maybe he plays better in fantasy next year just based on, the rushing stuff, because he's a guy you saw in the playoffs. What did he start doing? He started running the ball a lot more because, he just wasn't getting it done through the air. The offensive line was really an issue, and they didn't really address that offensive line too much this year. So I think they're hoping that another year of maturity for these guys in cohesion is going to work. But, that seems like a bad thing for Drake May because he's a deep ball passer, but it's a good thing for his legs because he is athletic enough to just say, screw it. I'm just going to fucking run for 60 yards this game. That's where the upside is with Drake May.
I mean, he did run for 450 yards last year, I guess.
Yeah, but 4 touchdowns is kind of low.
Yeah, he had that 1-2 touchdown game. He had a couple sprinkled in early in the season. I guess that's where my concern would be. They definitely don't want him sneaking or running RPOs around the goal line. That's why they've got Ramondre Stevenson on the roster. But you're absolutely right. Like, he definitely ran a lot. He had 180 yards rushing over 4 games in the playoffs. So there is some upside there in terms of the actual rushing if they take that game to the next level. I do wonder what A.J. Brown's going to be like in New England. Feels like they're less of they're more of a no-nonsense franchise than the Eagles are. I don't know. I think A.J. Brown still has plenty of years left. It's just a matter of can he put his ego behind him and play for the good of the team.
Are you going to be drafting a lot? It sounds like you're not drafting Drake May, and it's not just. I think it's more of a fundamental thing for you in terms of not drafting quarterback 3 because he's way too close to the top 2 guys, where he's like so much farther away. He's closer to Lamar and Josh Allen than he is Jackson Dart, than he is Trevor Lawrence. And like I feel like he should be closer to the back end guys than he is the top end guys.
Yeah, I have a really hard time drafting anybody at what I consider to be the ceiling. I just don't see a world where he finishes ahead of a healthy Lamar Jackson and ahead of Josh Allen, who stays healthy regardless of the number of broken bones that he has at the end of the season. So the fact is, like, he's not sneaking up on anybody in the NFL. He's not sneaking, and their schedule is going to be more difficult this year. And in fantasy, like, just when you can get a Jaden Daniels a couple of rounds later, several quarterback spots later, who I think has just as much upside. Or if you want to wait even more and roll the dice on Jackson Dart, there's plenty of good opportunities for taking skill position players where Drake May is being drafted.
I broke it down last night with this tier of Drake May all the way to Jalen Hurts. So it's Drake May, it's Jaden Daniels, it's Caleb Williams, it's Jalen Hurts. I'm going to take the cheapest guy, and not so much cheapest guy ADP, whatever guy falls, right? Because usually with these guys in this specific tier, they're all so close. You take whatever one, they're going to go in different orders, right? And if Drake May falls to quarterback 5, and it's not even the end of the tier, I'm gonna take shots at him. But I'm certainly not taking him as quarterback 3. Like, in no world, unless the quarterback 3, unless he goes to like pick 75 when his ADP is 68. Like, I want some exposure to Drake May because I do see, even if he finishes at ADP, if it's 20% worse than last year, it's still going to be a worthwhile pick. Just not at closer to Lamar Jackson than he is the other guys. So let's move on. I have 2 more names to talk about here. George Kittle, tight end 9. So this is strictly injury based. Like, I feel like if George Kittle is healthy and he comes back and he's not really, he's not the same player. Let's say he's just 90% of himself. He's going to smash his ADP. But if he comes back early and has a setback, and whether that's missing games or not, if it's, he's just not playing as many snaps as we're used to seeing, and he's just not quite the dynamic playmaker, he's gonna fall on his face and be tight end 15. And is that possible for George Kittle? Because they like Jake Tunges too. Jake Tunges can play alongside of him and kind of give him some relief.
The thing is, in terms of that Shanahan scheme, I'm not too worried about Tunges. If Kittle is fully healthy, they don't run a ton of 2 tight end sets. At least not yet. I don't know. The whole league is changing towards that. So I'm not too worried about that. I think the big question mark is how healthy is he at his age? And what does it mean for a fully healthy George Kittle? Right? It didn't look like he took a step back at all last year from a production standpoint. But, man, it's not easy to come back from an Achilles tear. And despite the fact that it's supposed to be a good Achilles tear and they didn't have to drill in the bone and all that kind of stuff. I have a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that he's going to be ready for week 1. It feels like it's a lot of hype for great tight end, but you've got to have a backup plan in place.
And we also have to factor in if the reports are good and we get closer to redraft season and it's like it seems apparent that he is going to play week 1, he's going to start sneaking up next to Kyle Pitts and Harold Fannin, right? And I understand. I think in a half PPR, I am more about taking George Kittle a little higher because it's touchdown upside with Brock Purdy in this offense, where, you're not going to quite have that with Kyle Pitts. He's never been a touchdown guy. And Harold Fannin plays for the Browns. No offense to the Browns, but it's not exactly a lucrative offense. In full PPR, though, are you still, even if we know George Kittle's playing week 1 and he's looking really good in videos and everything, and all the reports are positive, are you still taking George Kittle after those two guys I mentioned, Kyle Pitts and Harold Fannin?
We know he's playing week 1.
If we know he's playing week 1 and it's like he's a full go, you hear the full go report, which again, we're putting our faith into these reports. But if they're saying this in August, that's most likely going to happen. Is it George Kittle? Is it Kyle Pitts or is it Harold Fannin?
I think it's Pitts, Kittle, Fannin. I'm just really worried about that Cleveland offense in general. So, man, if he's full go and the reports are good, you might get burned week 1, but at the very least, you could have George Kittle at easily tight end 3 for that week.
What do you think George Kittle's upside is? If it's like I said, all the reports are good. He plays the whole year and he starts the year. Is it tight end 5 or is it tight end 3? Tight end 3 was his old range every year.
Yeah. But I think those 4 guys that are currently being drafted at the top of those 2 guys that we know about are probably the next great tier of tight ends, and then you got 2 guys in Loveland and Warren that should be fairly productive for the rest of for many years to come, and it's definitely this year.
What do you think about Sam Laporta? So Sam Laporta also coming off a little bit of an injury. It's a back injury, nothing like we're talking about with George Kittle. If Kittle's healthy, like I said, who do you think has higher upside? Kittle or Sam Laporta on this electric offense in Detroit every single year?
Yeah, I think it's Kittle still. I would I'd love to get shots of Laporta from a safety perspective, but I'm not sure. We know that is an extremely narrow target tree. I think Gibbs is going to soak up a lot of underneath stuff. And, I'm on the right side. St. Brown is the best slot merchant in the league, even though he's not a slot merchant.
Arkham, what do you think I can get for CMC right now? That is a very, very in-depth loaded question. Again, Arkham, you need to get in the Discord, and I can give you the outlines of what you can get. It's not about the player you're getting. You need to target a team that's win now. Obviously, if you're trading CMC, you're in a rebuild mode. You need to target a team that is win now and they have a lot of veteran players. A team that has, Devontae Adams or has all these win now players that's going for it. That is the team to target, and you take the most you can get. So, again, I can't really give you specific names because it's not about the players. It's about the team to target. You'll get the most from a team that's win now. CMC has 1 or 2 years left at this peak. So I need to look at the rosters around you and the league settings. There's so much stuff there to dive into. So I'd love to have you in the community, man. I will take a look at all of your team for you. And we win big money. I'll win big money for you if you believe in me. You like that little saying there?
Yeah.
We call the site. This is the Professional Fanatics where fantasy becomes currency. That's what the site is.
That's a good slogan. Who came up with that slogan?
Mouth did. Shout out to Mouth of the South.
Great. Where's he been? I haven't seen him in forever.
He's been sick. You were out of town for 2 weeks, Story, so you didn't see anyone for forever. I mean, this is your second show back.
If you are trading McCaffrey, you're a rebuild. You want picks. You don't want players. Who cares about players? Right?
You can take young players. You can get a bunch of young players.
I'm just trying to think how you could ask for a late first. It'd be very difficult to get a 27th first, I think, for McCaffrey. Maybe a second. Maybe a guy like Lad McConkey and a 27th third would.
No way. I want more than that, bro. It's CMC. He said he's in a win now. He says get a guy like James Cook or something like that. Yeah, that's a fair trade. I would rather have James Cook. Yeah, it's pouring.
I think it's hailing, actually.
Yeah, I think so too. I would rather have James Cook, Ashton Genty. I mean, you're not going to get that deal done because the key is he said he's in win now, so I would just keep CMC. Again, there's a lot to get into here, and it's just hard for me to speak on stuff that's just not speculation, but I need the details of the league because to give you an answer would be doing you a disservice. Like, I'm not willing to give you bad advice based on information I do not know. Connor says drafting tonight. We will see. We have $10 in super. We need $15 more in super chat or 4 more subs on this specific stream. We have 1 sub, so we need 5. And I will hop over and do an underdog draft. We have a couple more names to talk about, though, Story, and let's get to the next name. We finished up on George Kittle. Let's go with Xavier Worthy, our boy, who I convinced you to draft in Dynasty, wide receiver 44. So I'll give you my range of outcomes. I think Xavier Worthy's ceiling, regardless of Rashee Rice's suspension possibility, injury risk, all that kind of stuff, if he even plays the whole year, I think that Xavier Worthy has a potential to be a top 15 receiver in PPR.
If Rice is healthy?
Correct.
Oh, my goodness. That is a bold.
Well, dude, he has the skill set. He has the speed. He has Patrick Mahomes. There's no one else there besides Tyquan Thornton in that receiving game. And literally Travis Kelce is 71 years old. So, as much as we love Kenneth Walker, he's only one man in the backfield. Xavier Worthy, we've seen him score a lot of touchdowns, right, for the type of player he is. He gets end arounds. Like, Xavier Worthy can have 10 touchdowns this year. Do you think that's fair?
I mean,
what did he have as a rookie? 9?
When's the last time we saw Xavier Worthy healthy, right? It was his rookie season. So over the last 4-ish
He's only played 2 seasons. I mean, it's not like he's been hurt for 3 straight years.
Well, he was hurt for the entirety of last year. But, I mean, he was basically averaging a touchdown per game. Now, that's not sustainable, obviously. It's a bit of a cherry-picked number. It's a small sample size. But, man, 10 touchdowns, yeah, probably in the range of opportunity. You need a number of things to go right. You need Rashee Rice to regress or to have a setback from the knee injury. You need Patrick Mahomes to get back to pre-injury form. And you need that Chiefs offense to be far more prolific than it's been. The nice thing is Kelsey's at the tail end of his career, so it's not like he's going to be a big target earner or soaking up a ton of targets there. I like him a lot. I like, assuming he's just going to be a 1,500-yard guy and touchdown guy all of a sudden.
I didn't say 1,500 yards, and I didn't say top 12 receiver. I said top 15 receiver. But you don't let me finish to my downside. So my upside was top 15. Let's just call it top 18. I'm thinking top 15. The downside's out of the league. Okay. He literally becomes
Sky Moore.
Sky Moore is the definition there, or McCole Hardman, right? Like something like that, where he's just a gadget guy. That's the downside. And this is a big year for him. He's only 23 years old, former first-round pick. He has all the things we want, besides he's not really good at tracking the ball or catching. Besides that, he has all the things we want. Like, dude, Jameson Williams.
Extremely important to wide receivers.
Jameson Williams has been very good since his second year in the league, right? So the first year he came off the injury, second year he got suspended. The last 2 years, Jameson Williams has actually been pretty consistent, and he's made some leaps. Jameson Williams is still not a very good receiver. He has the same issues Xavier Worthy has. He's a little bigger, but Xavier Worthy's definitely faster. We're talking Jameson Williams in the top 20. We're drafting him in right around that range right now, and he's been finishing like that. So why can't Xavier Worthy? You understand what I'm saying? If anything, it's way more crowded in Detroit than it is in Kansas City. There's nothing there.
Yeah, I mean, he's young. It's not like he's a zero. He was a good prospect. He's been, even at the pro level, he definitely flashed, especially at the end of his rookie year. He's got great traits, but I'm not ready to anoint him a double-digit touchdown player in an offense that has a lot of question marks surrounding it. I have no doubt that Andy Reid will get back to form and lead this team back to the playoffs. I have concerns about this team being as prolific as they were in 2019 and the name value that seems to be dragging all these players along with them. I mean, hopefully, fingers crossed, he doesn't get steamrolled by Travis Kelce in the first play of the game, first play of the season again this year, and we can have a fully healthy season with him much more acclimated to the NFL. We'll see. I'm just going to go into this year with very little expectations for Xavier Worthy and be pleasantly surprised. Hopefully.
So let's do this exercise here a little bit. And let's see, he says Dakota hates the Chiefs. So, I mean, you're going to take what he says. He says a lot of bold, positive takes around the Chiefs 2026. They're very undervalued is the point. So I'm not like going on a limb here. And Xavier Worthy, wide receiver 44. This is a bench receiver. This is a bench receiver where you're drafting him. We're not talking best ball. We're talking redraft. This is officially a bench receiver. The top 36 are started, and then top 48 would make it the wide receiver 4. He's almost back-end wide receiver 4 range, so he's maybe flexing in certain leagues, but a lot of the guys do flex running backs. I'm going to read you the list of guys going around him, and the definition I want for a bench running back is a guy that can go boom, a guy that can actually become an every week starter and actually win a league for me. So I'm going to give you names here, starting with wide receiver 40. Jaden Reed, Jordan Addison, Chris Godwin, Josh Downs. Those 4 guys ahead of him. As a bench receiver, a guy that's going to marinate in the bench that could have some big upside, which of those guys do you want over Xavier Worthy? These guys are all going ahead of him. Jaden Reed, Jordan Addison, Chris Godwin. Jaden Reed, Jordan Addison, Chris Godwin, and Josh Downs.
I want Reed, Godwin, and Downs over him.
You think Josh Downs actually has – you think Jaden Reed, who's the third receiver in that offense, at least by snap share, I think that's what it's going to be, with Tucker Kraft there, is better as a bench receiver?
The nice thing is the Packers got rid of 2 wide receivers who were soaking up targets, and Bo Melton is basically a 0 in the passing game. So even though he is a part-time player, if he – there's still opportunity for him to earn more snaps, and he's been very efficient when he's been on the field. Godwin – if he last year was saddled with injury, I'll
give you Godwin all day.
I'm working on I'm hoping that the Godwin bounce back is real. And then Downs, I want to take a shot. Who else is there? Tyler Warren and maybe Alec Pierce.
It's not maybe Alec Pierce. It'll be Alec Pierce. Also, Jonathan Taylor's there, and also Daniel Jones has a destroyed leg, and he's also Daniel Jones.
That's the question mark. The question mark is less about.
Dude, there's question marks with all these players, right? Jaden Reed, is he going to play in 3 wide receiver sets? Jordan Addison, is Kyler Murray going to be back to form? Chris Godwin, is he 1 year removed now? Is he healthy? Is he going to be healthy enough? Josh Downs, again, is he going to be playing in 2 wide receiver sets? That's probably a no. Let's go to the 4 guys after him. Michael Wilson, Ricky Pearsall, Jacoby Myers, and Michael Pittman. We're talking bench receivers here. Now, this is more fair because these guys are going after him. So Michael Wilson seems like he needs an injury to be the guy I'm going to start every single week. I love Michael Wilson, but he's a 3rd pass catcher there, and maybe 4th with Jeremiah Love.
Okay. Hang on. I'm sorry. The dog is pretty nervous about the rain, so she's.
Oh, I bet. What a sweetie.
Yes. She's crawling up on me.
Michael Wilson, I want Worthy over Wilson. Ricky Pearsall is a good one. Oh, hey, Ricky Pearsall is a good one because Ricky Pearsall has a chance to be the number 2 pass catcher, especially with Kittle's injury. Dude, I understand that.
Okay. So give me those 4 names again. Michael Wilson, Ricky Pearsall. Who else?
Jacoby Myers and Michael Pittman.
Okay. So scratch Pittman off. I would definitely take Pearsall because Evans trading teams makes me nervous a little bit. I'm not fully convinced that Evans is going to be some great 4th round pick. Like we saw, doesn't his situation kind of remind you of Allen Robinson when he went to the Rams a little bit?
A little bit. And so Ricky Pearsall is the perfect example of the bench guy I want because his is more health related, but he's tied to a great offense.
Especially
Chris Godwin is a safer option, but I'm really bullish on Chris Godwin. So I think I would rank Chris Godwin and PPR way ahead of this. But Jacoby Myers and Michael Pittman are the examples of the guys I'm saying I don't want on my bench. I don't want them on my bench because they're depth pieces. And yes, they're going to finish. They'll probably finish higher than Worthy. If you play the season out 100 times, they're going to finish higher than Worthy at the end of the day. But I'm looking for upside. And is there any world that Jacoby Myers or Michael Pittman are top 20 receivers this year?
No. I mean,
even top 24.
Pittman's upside is probably like wide receiver 30.
And then a guy like Wan'Dale Robinson going after him, right? I like Matthew Golden. He's in the same realm for me as Xavier Worthy. But Wan'Dale Robinson, Romeo Doubs, like these guys are just going to be inconsistent week to week. And they're going to have a role for sure. But Xavier Worthy has Mahomes. He literally has the skill set. Andy Reid is I think we all forgot how good of a play caller Andy Reid is. That is my thing. I'm tying myself here to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. That's not exactly a bad hill to die on. It has been last year. Last year it was 1 year. And then the back half of 2024. The offensive line went to shit. I get that. But
yeah, I mean, the downside is that he's just a track star and he's just a speedster, even though his speed isn't really as advertised. By the way, you want to talk about a guy that really reminds me of Sky Moore? It's Matthew Golden. Good. But yeah, so the downside is he's just a downfield threat, and Rice is the actual wide receiver 1 on that team, and Xavier Worthy doesn't even pay off at his wide receiver 44 price tag. There's also the possibility that they sign somebody before the start of the year, a true number 1, or at least a guy who's going to compete for targets.
Stephon Diggs,
Keenan Allen, or Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, that would be more damning for me for Rashee Rice though, because that's the Rashee Rice role, right?
Yeah.
All right, we have a couple more names, and just in case, guys, that we have some major storms going on here. I've had no issues so far, but just in case something goes wonky, it's because of the storms. 2 more names. These are honorable mentions for us. Just want to breeze through them real quick before we end the show. CMC, running back 3 for you. This is strictly a health play here because you're not worried about anything else when he's on the field.
No, I mean his passing efficiency was as robust as we've ever seen. His running efficiency took a dip, but that really doesn't matter for what we're looking for from him and his position. So strictly a matter of, does he stay healthy? Showed he could stay healthy last year, but 400 touches per year doesn't exactly scream health to me. We'll see what they try to do if they try to lighten his workload. No concerns about him as a fantasy asset if he plays 17 games. The concern will be if he gets injured. When he gets injured, he tends to miss extended periods of time.
What is obviously, do we still think that CMC could be running back 1 in PPR this year?
Yes.
Even with Gibbs
even with
and Bijan?
Even with Gibbs, yep, I still think
I agree.
That's a possibility.
What is his? Let's say he plays a full year, which is we have no sample for this that he plays a full year and isn't a top 5 running back, or usually it's a top 3 running back. Typically, it's the number 1 running back.
1 or 2, yeah.
Let's just say that he plays a full year though, but he hits the wall. They start using Kalen Black a little bit more. These are hypotheticals because Kyle Shanahan won't do this shit, but there's a chance. They want to keep him healthy, and he's just not quite the same player. He goes even more the other way in terms of his rushing efficiency and eye test stuff, but he's still a good pass catcher. So, Connor just funded the operation. We love Connor in here. Connor's the shits. Let's get an underdog draft rolling after the show. All right, Connor. And I also have a beer chug for that after we finish this conversation real quick. What is the downside of CMC? Is it 7 RB8? I mean, if that's the case, we should be drafting CMC right up there with Bijan and Gibbs. I know the only problem is health, but I'm not too scared about that. But every player has a chance to get hurt. We saw CMC hold up last year. He did have 450 touches last year, though, with the playoffs. So what is the downside? If he stays healthy and the reduces workload a little bit, he's not the same player. Is it 10? Is it 12 in terms of running backs?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think it's – if he stays healthy, I don't think there's any way he finishes outside the top 6. Like, his efficiency dipped off a little bit in the running game, but he was very prolific in the passing game. No concerns about that. I just – the offense in general could take a step back, and he could still finish as running back 5. So I'm not really concerned about that. I agree with you. Like, last year I was kind of staying away, and it bit me a little bit. This year, until he proves otherwise, you got to jump in. Now, it could be devastating. Like, if he gets injured early, he could miss an extended period of time. But this is the kind of guy that can win you your week and win you your league pretty easily. So I think his downside, if he's fully healthy, I think, honest to God, like running back 7. Absolute floor.
Okay, and then I have a name that we're going to breeze by really quick. It is Emeka Egbuka.
And you got to give credit to this rookie sensation wide receiver out of Ohio State, Emeka Egbuka.
Wide receiver 19. I have a range of outcomes here for Egbuka. Of wide receiver 12 is his ceiling. Wide receiver 36 is his floor. And we literally just saw it last year. Like, we just saw it last year. Now that was Baker being hurt. That was Egbuka also being hurt. But what's the real Egbuka? Will the real Egbuka stand up? Which is it? Or is he more of a floor play? Do you think he's just going to be this? He's not a true number 1. And hopefully they're not going to ask him to play a lot of X this year. I think that the idea is he's going to be a Z. He's going to be a flanker. That's where he's most well-suited with his skill sets. What is the real Egbuka story?
I don't know, man. I hope it's the Egbuka who played at Ohio State at a 2.6 yards per route run, who had a highly explosive run rate, or excuse me, not run rate, yards per catch or yards after the catch of 14. I hope it's that guy. I hope it's the guy we saw in the first 6 or 7 games of the 2025 season. I hope it was just injury to Baker. I hope it was an injury to Egbuka, and that we get back to what we saw at the beginning of last year. It's probably somewhere in the middle, right? He was a wide receiver 3 over the first 6 games of the season. That seems unsustainable, especially with some of the competition still there. Jalen McMillan will be fully healthy to start the year this year. So, yeah, I'm more on the mindset of he's going to bounce back to the beginning of the year, but I definitely do see the downside, especially if they want to become more run-heavy.
All right, let me give you 2 names going right above him and right below him, and you tell me who you want in full PPR. So we have wide receiver 19 for Egbuka. So we have T. Higgins and Ladd McConkey going in front of him, going first. Do you want Egbuka over Ladd or T. Higgins?
I want Higgins over Egbuka, but I want Egbuka over Ladd.
Okay, the 2 names going after him, Garrett Wilson and Tet McMillan.
I definitely want Garrett Wilson over Ibuka, but I still think I want Ibuka over Ted McMillan. I shouldn't say definitely. I would. I think
So tough.
70% of the time I would take Wilson over Ibuka. That is tough though. That one's really tough.
So last year, Ted had 122 targets, 70 catches, 1,000 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And Bryce Young played bad, and Ted, had some stinkers, like a 1-catch game for 10 yards. Like,
yeah, first half of the year was pretty rough.
Who has higher upside?
It wasn't rough.
Is it going to be Ibuka because of the quarterback play and the team, right? The better offense. But you agree that Ted has a higher floor? I think Ted just seems like a great floor player.
mean, what do we talk? Godwin, McMillan. They drafted what's his name? Ted Hurst. There's competition there for Ibuka. Now Evans is gone. That's good. There's not really a tight end to speak of. K-Dot, I guess. Whatever. But there's no competition in Carolina, right? Like who's realistically taking targets away from Ted McMillan?
It's Jalen Coker, and they have no running backs to speak of really besides Chuba and Jonathan Brooks, and then there's no tight end, right? There's no. As much as you hate K-Dot's a much better tight end than Tommy Tremble and Javian Sanders. So but you also have Bryce Young, who is pretty ass.
Yeah, but he played well last year in stretches and to close out the season. So, and he played well-ish towards the end of the 2024 season as well. So, AJ Dillon's on that team, by the way, that Panthers team. Isn't that crazy?
Quadzilla, baby. All right. What a great show again.